Welcome back. Tuesday night, another episode of the BBQ Pit MMA. We're going to be doing a NFL pick against the spread right after this, so make sure you tune in. But UFC Vegas 63, Calvin Kattar, Arnold Allen jumping right into the main event. Great boxing versus a good all-around fighter, good grappling, good boxer. Excuse me. Arnold Allen, 18-1. His only loss was a decision loss to Marcin Warsack at Cage Warrior 69 in 2014. He's currently on an 11-fight win streak, with 9 of those being in the UFC. He's got 6 wins via knockout, 4 wins via submission. His UFC wins include Mads Burnell, Gilbert Melendez, Sadiq Youssef, and Dan Hooker. He's got slightly better jiu-jitsu, I believe, than Calvin Kattar does. The question is going to be, where does the fight take place at? Because Calvin Kattar also has a 2.5-inch height and a 3-inch reach advantage over Arnold Allen. And he's probably coming into this fight the better boxer. Kattar's 23-6, 7-4 in the UFC, 1-2 in his last 3. He lost a decision to Max Holloway, beat Giga Chikadze, and then his most recent fight lost a split decision with Josh Emmett, where he noticeably struggled a little bit with the wrestling and the leg kicks of Josh Emmett. So something to look out for with the Arnold Allen fight. Arnold Allen coming in at minus 120. I don't agree with. I think with that big of a size advantage, Calvin Kattar is going to be able to keep him at bay and exploit his boxing and keep it standing and either win a decision or knock him out. So I'm going to go Calvin Kattar. Max Griffin versus Tim Means. Max Griffin, 18-9, never been submitted in his career, only been knocked out once. That was against Colby Covington in his UFC debut in 2016 at UFC 202. Just for reference, I think we're on UFC 270-something now. So a very long time ago. He's got UFC wins over Mike Perry, Song Kenan, and Carlos Condit. He lost his last fight via split decision to Neil Magny. He's got 9 wins via knockout, 7 wins via decision. He's a great counter striker. He's got knockout powers, and he's got exceptional knees and elbows in the clinch, which we've seen in his win over against Ramiz Barhamaj, how the fuck you say his name, where an elbow from Max Griffin ripped his ear completely from here, like disconnected all the way to the middle, and you could see from the back, it was hanging down so much you could see into the back of his skull from where his ear was hanging down. I mean, that's you don't want to call that a skill, because that could just have the luckiest shot, and that's why his ear ripped open. But the precision on where to put a shot and the power behind an elbow to do that, because I mean, we've seen elbows before. We've seen elbows hit people in the ear. We've seen elbows hit people in the eyebrows and the jaw, nose, lips. It doesn't rip their skin off. You know what I'm saying? This elbow that he threw ripped this guy's ear so much so that it was hanging down, and it literally looked like this. I don't know if you can see this, but it looked like this. I mean, a lot more blood, but it looked fucking disgusting. So crazy elbows for Max Griffin. Tim Means is the best opponent I could possibly think of for a guy like Max Griffin. He's the same reach, but he's 3-inch taller than Max Griffin. 32-13, 1-1 is his pro record, with 1 DQ and 1 no contest. Or no, 1 no contest and 1 draw. The DQ counts as a loss. He's got a professional record. We just said that. He's been in the UFC since 2012. 3-1 in his last 4 fights, with his last fight being a submission loss to Kevin Holland. Before that, he won 3 decisions over Leonardo Staropoli, Mike Perry, and Nicholas Dalby. Extremely tough fighter with great submission skills, good striking, but he's got that kind of Nate Diaz style of striking where he's going to put a lot of volume on you rather than knock you out with one punch. 19 wins via knockout. He's only been knocked out twice in his professional career, once against Nico Price, and the other was against Luke Cayuldo in 2004, which was his second professional fight. That fight, he only got TKO'd technically because of an injury. So I didn't go watch the tape. I didn't really dig into it much. But obviously he had maybe leg kicks, an ankle injury, maybe broken rib from body kick, or I think they called the Tyron Woodley one where he lost to Covington, was it? Or I forget who he lost to, but where he was grappling, and he had whoever was fighting just had passed full mount from the body triangle, and as soon as he passed full mount, Tyron Woodley just like kind of like curled up and started like tapping out, and it turned out he broke his rib. So I mean, that wasn't necessarily a strike, but I think they still considered that a TKO. So plethora of different things that could have happened to Tim Means in that fight. Regardless, the point of that stat is that Tim Means is a very, very tough guy, and he's fought Kevin Holland, Mike Perry, Nicholas Dalby. He's fight some tough, hard-hitting welterweights, and only been finished once. Really finished. Like I said, the other one was an injury. But that's why I think he's such a good matchup for Max Griffin, is because of how tough he is, because how much damage Max Griffin is going to put on you. And then also Tim Means is a pressured style of fighter offensively, and Max Griffin is a counter striker. So Max Griffin kind of just has the perfect matchup here for him. But Tim Means, like I said, tough guy, makes it a brawl. Good grappling, could easily walk away with this fight if the fight goes his way, but I'm going to go Max Griffin via TKO or decision because of how tough Tim Means is. Jared Van Dier is going up against Waldo Cortez Acosta. Acosta won his contract with a knockout win over Danilo Schwartz on the Contender Series this past August. He has a 7-0 professional record. He's got a decision win over Mohamed Daris at Bellator 271 last year. He's got 4 wins via knockout, 1 win via submission, 2 wins via decision, of course. And then his 3 most recent fights ended in a knockout. 1 of them in the first round, 1 of them in the second round, 1 of them in the third round. This is important because, normally you see knockout artists, those type of guys, they got like 15 knockouts, 12 of them in the first round. You know what I mean? For this guy to have 3 back-to-back-to-back fights where once, I think it went third, first, second. So I think the first one, he was able to go to war with this guy for 3 rounds and then finish him in the third round. The second one, he showed he's got knockout power in the beginning of the fight, first round. And then the second one, he's shown that, and I didn't go back and rewatch. I should have rewatched the Dana White's one where he finished him in the second round, because that could have potentially shown that he can lose a round and then come back and knock somebody out, because, if he's that dominant and he's winning, you'd have to assume the only reason he got to the second round in that fight was because his game plan just wasn't matching up to Schwartz's game plan. His opponent, Jared Van Dier, is 12-9, currently on a 4-fight losing streak, losing TKO to Alexander Romanov, a split decision to Andrei Arlovsky, a submission to Alexei Oleinik, and then most recently a technical knockout loss to Chase Sherman in July. He is 1-5 in the UFC with with his 1 win being a decision win over Justin Tafa in May of last year. He made his UFC debut in 2021, so that means we are now on his 7th UFC fight in less than 2 years. I think he's possibly fighting for his job here. He's fighting an up-and-coming guy, a young guy that I'm not saying it's like a respect thing between the veterans and the newer debuting guys. I just think that it's a levels thing. And just Jared Van Dier being in the UFC for 6 fights, fighting UFC caliber guys for 6 fights, should be on a higher level than Waldo Cortez Acosta. It just, and to elevate that a little bit, he should be on a higher level, number 1. Number 2, he is in a must-win to keep your job type scenario. And I don't know around the world, I've never been in a situation like this, but I'm sure there's a lot of people around this world that have felt the feeling of, I have to do this, or I have to complete this, or I have to succeed in this, or I will be fired. And it's like a one thing. It's not like I have to do my job right. It is I have to make this ball on top of this mountain or I'm fired. Or I have to, I have to do one particular thing or I'm fired. And that one thing, he's coming into the whole fight months and months and months and months coming up to this fight, training camp. He's thinking about it. I got to win. I got to win. I got to win. Walking out to the cage. I got to win. It's either going to be way too much pressure or it's going to be just what he needs to get back in the win column and continue his UFC career. I don't think it's going to happen, though. I don't think he has the striking to keep up with Acosta. I'm going to go Acosta by knockout. This one is actually on the prelims. This is one of my favorite fights on this card. Dustin Jacoby versus Khalil Roundtree Jr. Classic kickboxer versus classic Muay Thai artist. Dustin Jacoby Former pro kickboxer, 10-8 with 9 knockout wins in his kickboxing career, which includes 2 wins over Wayne Barnett and a win over Carl Robinson. He's coming into this fight with a 3-inch height and a 1.5-inch reach advantage over Roundtree. He's got 11 wins in MMA. He's 18-5-1 in MMA, 6-0-1 in the UFC. He's got 11 wins via knockout, 6 wins via decision. He's only been knocked out once in his professional career against Muhammad Lawal at Bellator 123 in 2014. So this guy has not been finished in 8 years almost. 8 years. He's had 1 no contest in the UFC. He's got UFC wins over Maxim Gresham, John Allen, Darren Stewart, and Dain Jung, just to name a few. And he's going up against Roundtree, who's got a very similar record, 10-5-1. UFC record 6-5-1. So he's a little bit more wishy-washy in the UFC than Dustin Jacoby is. He's got 7 wins via knockout, only been knocked out twice in his pro career. Johnny Walker and Ian Cutelaba are the guys that had the honor of knocking out Khalil Roundtree. He's on a 2-fight win streak right now, finishing Modestas Budaskis by leg kicks and Carl Robinson by body kicks. He's got a Muay Thai background. I would have to say my biggest explanation for the difference in kickboxing and Muay Thai, because it's technically very similar in that they're striking, they're mostly using kicks and punches, and just like kickboxing, would be that, one, the stance. Kickboxing stance is going to be similar to a boxing stance. Your legs are going to be spread, shoulder width, 1 foot in front of the other. Equal balance on both feet so that you could throw off of both feet. Whereas Muay Thai, they put all of their pressure on their back leg. All their pressure. They have their front leg kind of just tapping, like similar stance, a little bit closer stance, but they have their front leg kind of just tapping the ground or just very light on the ground because of Muay Thai. Leg kicks are like one of the biggest weapons in Muay Thai. So you keep that leg loose. People throw leg kicks, you could check it more easily. But what that also does is makes it so that when you have to maneuver your weight or shift your weight forward, it is all of your weight shifting forward. Whereas when you're kickboxing, it's kind of like if you're kickboxing, your weight's here. So when you throw, you're really just throwing with your hips. It's all hips. But when you're throwing like a Muay Thai and all your weight's here, when you throw your weight here, your entire shoulders, hips, your legs, it's all going onto that top foot so that you can arch over and throw the kick. So when I was kind of making my notes here and I was describing it earlier, I was kind of saying that the difference is power. Normally Muay Thai kicks and punches and stuff like that are more powerful than kickboxing, but it's not like, if Dustin Jacoby is stronger than Khalil Roundtree, his strikes are obviously going to be harder than Khalil Roundtree's. But the Muay Thai stance allows you to put more velocity behind your strikes at a shorter time frame, shorter distance, all that, than a kickboxer does. A kickboxer has to throw that amount of power, they have to shift their weight, but it's not just a push off your foot, shift your weight. It is a step, turn, throw, and then it's still just your hips. It's not really, unless you stepped into your turn for a kickboxing kick, it's still not going to throw the same velocity. I don't want to get it misconstrued. It does not mean that I think Khalil Roundtree is more powerful, stronger, can hit harder than Dustin Jacoby. I just think that his style, the Muay Thai style, generally produces more power in their kicks. With that being said, I have picked Dustin Jacoby in all of his UFC fights, and he has not let me down once because I don't count no contests. So I think he lost that fight, but it was a no contest loss, so it didn't count against my record. So 6 fights, never once has he let me down. I'm going to keep riding Dustin Jacoby. That's my guy. I'm going to go knockout. Rest of the card, it looks like Josh Freem versus Trishan Gore is going to be on the main card. Phil Hawes versus Roman Delatze kicks off Dustin Jacoby. Roundtree is going to headline the prelims. Then it's going to be Phil Hawes, Roman Delatze. Andrei Arlovsky will be taking on Marcos Rogero de Lima. Park Jun-young will be going up against Joseph Holmes. Chase Hooper making his return against Steve Garcia. Clarison Rodriguez will be going up against Cody Durden. Fuck that guy. And then Josh Weems stepping in on short notice against Christian Rodriguez. He's filling in for Garrett Armfield. And that was just announced today, so they didn't have any odds on it or anything, but that to look forward to. You guys know what it is. Until next time, stay barbecue. We'll be back next week for another MMA preview.